If you've ever felt that, telltale burning in your chest after a big meal, you are definitely not alone. That's your stomach acid talking. Today, we're going to dive deep into what happens when that acid goes rogue, leading to stuff like GERD and ulcers, and we'll look at the powerful meds we've designed to put out the fire.
Yeah, you know the one, that discomfort after you eat that we all just call heartburn. Well, it's actually a pretty big clue that something's a little off in your digestive system, and that's exactly where our story starts.
So here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why stomach acid, which is so crucial for us, can sometimes cause so many problems. Then, we'll look at the two main conditions it can cause, GERD and Peptic Ulcer Disease. And finally, we'll take a trip to the pharmacy to compare the two big-hitter acid blockers and figure out why a doctor might pick one over the other.
Okay, let's kick things off with the star of the show, stomach acid itself. It's an absolute biological marvel, but man, it's got a dark side. Let's get into when this good acid turns bad.
I want you to think of your stomach like a fortress. It's specifically built to contain this incredibly powerful acid that just pulverizes food and zaps nasty bacteria. So, see, the problem isn't really the acid itself. It's what happens when that acid gets out, when it breaches the walls and starts attacking tissues that have absolutely no defense against it.
And that breach of the fortress walls? Well, that leads us right into our first major issue, GERD. This is all about acid going in the completely wrong direction.
GERD is pretty much exactly what it sounds like, a disease caused by reflux. The stomach acid we were just talking about decides to flow backward and upward into your esophagus. And because your esophagus was never built to handle that kind of acidity, it gets really irritated and damaged.
So why is it flowing backward? A lot of the time, it comes down to a faulty valve. It's called the lower esophageal sphincter, or LES. It's supposed to be a one-way door, right? It lets food into the stomach but keeps acid out. In GERD, this door gets weak, or it just opens when it shouldn't, letting all that acid splash right back up. And things like hernias or even just extra pressure on your stomach can make the whole problem way worse.
And the result of all that splashing? You get that classic, unmistakable symptom, heartburn. But it's not just about the burn. GERD can also cause you to regurgitate food or acid. It can lead to chest pain that's not heartburn, and it can even trigger a nagging, chronic cough if the acid starts irritating your throat.
But what if the acid doesn't go up? What if it stays put and attacks the stomach's own defenses? Well, that brings us to our second big condition, Peptic Ulcer Disease, or PUD.
With PUD, what's happening is that the protective mucus layer inside your stomach or the top of your small intestine gets worn away. This lets that powerful stomach acid get right to the tissue underneath, and it literally erodes it, creating these painful open sores that we call ulcers. Now, what's really interesting here is that the acid often isn't the main villain, it's more like the accomplice. The real damage is usually kicked off by one of two things, either a specific bacteria called H. pylori that weakens the stomach's defenses, or from long-term use of common pain relievers like NSAIDs. Things like stress and smoking, they don't directly cause ulcers, but they can definitely pour fuel on the fire and make everything worse. The pain from an ulcer feels really different from GERD. It's less of that rising burn and more of a deep, gnawing pain right in your upper abdomen. It's often paired with bloating or nausea. And one really critical warning sign to look out for is something called melena. That's dark, tarry stools, which is a medical emergency because it means an ulcer is bleeding.
Okay, so we've got two pretty distinct problems, both starring stomach acid. Now, let's flip the script and look at the solutions, the two main classes of medication designed to fight back. First up are the H2 receptor antagonists, or H2RAs. Think of it this way. Your stomach cells have a make acid button. A chemical called histamine is the one that pushes that button. What H2RAs do is they basically put a cover over that button, blocking the signal and telling the stomach to just chill out on the acid production.
And the second group, these are the Proton Pump Inhibitors, or PPIs, and they are way more direct. They go straight to the source, the little tiny proton pumps in the stomach lining that are actually physically pumping out the acid. PPIs just go in and shut these pumps down completely, which leads to a much, much bigger drop in acid.
So we've got two different game plans. One blocks the signal, the other shuts down the factory. Let's put them side by side and see how they really stack up in a direct showdown.
In one corner, you've got the H2Rs. These are the sprinters, known for their fast-acting relief. And in the other corner, we have the PPIs, the marathon runners, famous for their powerful, long-lasting control over acid. All right, let's look at the stats. H2As, like famotidine, they are quick. They give you relief within about an hour, but their power is just moderate, and it wears off after maybe 12 hours. Now contrast that with PPIs, like omeprazole. They're slower to get going, it might take a day or two to hit their peak, but when they do, wow, they are highly potent and give you up to 24 hours of acid control. It's a whole different level.
So it really all boils down to this one trade-off, right? Are you looking for immediate speed for a problem that comes and goes, or do you need long-term staying power to really tackle something serious?
And that very question leads us right into our final section. How do you match the right tool to the right job?
This whole speed versus power thing is exactly how doctors think about it. If you've just got occasional heartburn, the quick relief of an H2RA is often perfect. But for more severe GERD, or when there's actual damage to the esophagus, that's called erosive esophagitis, or an ulcer that really needs a quiet, low-acid environment to heal, doctors are almost always going to reach for the heavy-duty power of a PPI.
And that's really the bottom line here. For just managing symptoms every now and then, H2RAs are a great tool. But for actually healing the damage caused by acid and for long-term control of serious conditions, the superior power and duration of PPIs make them the clear first choice.
Look, these medications are absolute game changers, there's no doubt about it. But their very effectiveness brings up a final, really important question. Are we becoming a little too reliant on a pill to solve problems that maybe lifestyle changes, like diet, exercise, or managing stress, could also help with? It's a huge question in medicine today. Thanks for joining me for this breakdown of acid blockers.